Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tangents with Alex and Jason, part of the Biff Bang Pow podcast. This episode is about Tron, all things Tron, Disney's property, Tron, that Alex and I are big fans of. He's probably a bigger fan than I am. And we cover all the details, inception, designs, merchandise. We don't get into the animated series, but just about everything else. So hope you learned something. Let us know what you think.
Well, here we are again, Mr. Ross, Mr. Lenzi, sitting across from each other. My dinner with Alex, so to speak. More tangents to discuss. I couldn't help. You, I think, were the one that alerted me a while back about the HasLabs Tron 1982 Tron set that they were putting up.
Yep.
4 figures and I think 2 light cycles and a little background and all this stuff. And I didn't know about it until you told me. Looked it up, and then without going into great detail, it didn't happen. And it got me thinking about Tron because it's something we've talked about many times. But recently, you put it in different contexts for me in certain ways, and I thought all of that stuff would be good to kind of just talk about briefly. But we were talking about the original film. Oh, this is right around when Ares was happening, I think, when that was actually hitting the theaters. And we were talking about the original film and how it basically, they had 2 films going on at once, kind of. They were filming the stuff on the stages, on the sets, in their leotards, like in black and white, and then all the computer stuff was being done in a revolutionary way, taking forever. But you had said that it reminded you that it had a look of a silent film to it, and which had never really occurred to me. And then the next time I watched it, I went, "Yeah, it totally does." And so much of the design and everything else kind of holds up. And I think it kind of means the same to you that it does to me. I think we kind of hold it in the same regard. Is it something you saw when it came out, or was it?
Oh yeah,
You did? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If anything, our mutual love of Flash Gordon is kind of reflected in my love for this movie because it's a couple years after, and you're looking for anything else that kind of feels like that energy
Yeah.
that we got off of Flash. That is a very different energy than you get from Star Wars or even the Superman films, which were, all kind of a continuous mythology that we had a series of films like that. But I like this sort of rock infused kind of energy that would define those films, as well as taking you a place that felt very abstract, very removed from even a practical science fiction entertainment. And that's what was so utterly accomplished with Tron, even though it was rough stages of developing a computer-based world, but in its roughness, they sort of overemphasize, like, well, what can we do? Add the glows, where it feels like a black light world. Well, I love me some black light posters, and for much of our generation, that was its own weird thing that you could connect with. And when you went into, I think that even
Spencer's Gifts in the shopping malls. Did you have Spencer's where you were?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
well, at least here. I don't know about where I grew up in Texas, but I mean, I think so, because I certainly had the experience of going into a store where the black lights were up, so you really got that in-person sense of what it was like to be almost in another space that was so weirdly abstract because the colors are all glowing around you.
Yeah.
And that feeling came through this movie, which is part of the abstractness of it that I really have a fascination with. And then the point you made about the sort of silent film aspect is a specific way of black and white film that is very different than just simply, okay, it's like picking out any old black and white film. Like, no, there's something else happening there where there's a term I'm sure that I'm not familiar with that would be applicable to how the depth of darks, the contrast. That's probably it. I'm only looking for the word contrast, where the darks are darker, so that means that around the eyes, the shading around your eyes gets that much deeper.
Yeah.
And so the wells of the eyes are so much greater. So when you look at the film, as it's been worked over with adding all the glows and everything, you're looking at faces like Boxlittner's, and remind me of the actress again. I forget her name.
Oh, you'd have to say that. Shoot.
You're the
Um,
guy to remember those
I
names
know.
off the top of your head.
Uh, we're gonna get so much shit for this. Yori is the character,
Yeah,
and it's played by, I will think of her because simultaneously they were
Caddyshack.
they were in the TV series Bring 'Em Back Alive. Do you remember?
Oh, that's what that was called? Bring 'Em Back Alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you had Tales of the Gold Monkey over on ABC, and then you had this. This was all in the wake of Raiders' success, basically. Although Tales of the Gold Monkey, they always said was more of a homage to, like, Bogart.
No, Tales of the Gold Monkey was 100% they're cashing in
Well,
on Indiana Jones. I mean, that was Indiana Jones, the weekly TV show,
yes.
100%.
I think initially the idea was more of a only angels have wings, or Key Largo, or to have those kinds of
Look,
films.
you're doing their job for them
No,
and
no. What I'm
defending
saying is,
how they didn't have to
I think
pay a licensing fee.
no, I think it happened. I think somebody went forward after when Raiders happened. I think the initial idea was something else, but then Raiders happened. They went, oh yeah, and they leaned more into the some of the jungle stuff, and the treasure and the
Well, part of the thing that was special for that show too is that they were spending a lot of money to be in the locations they were at. They couldn't have gotten approval for a budget like that without having the tremendous runaway success that Raiders was enjoying.
yeah.
So you could get something like that greenlit only in the case of, like, okay, this is proven, this period stuff is proven to be really popular, and we can do a spin here that centralizes us in one location. We're going to commit to filming around this area,
Yeah.
and we're going to use old planes or whatever, and then it'll feel like that time period that's being considered in vogue for the moment, which, of course, that did not lead to rating success, but they thought, it's worth a shot.
But I watched it every week, and I watched Bring 'Em Back Alive because it was those two. It was like it's so weird that those.
Yeah.
And I think they might have been a couple maybe at the time or something. Maybe I'm Cindy Morgan. Cindy Morgan.
Thank you.
I knew it would come to me the more I talked about it. So Cindy Morgan, and then Bridges. But you're right. Cindy Morgan and Box Leitner have more of those faces. They're more.
Well, and actually, let's point out also, when you had a lot of the intimate close-up shots of Cindy, would be very hauntingly beautiful in a way that, I don't know, it could be accentuated for the fact that she would have had eye makeup on. So around her eyes and everything, that area is going really deeply dark. So you feel like you're watching a movie from the 1920s, an early silent film. And it's almost like watching Nosferatu practically, like there's such, or
Yeah.
better than that, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari,
Yeah.
where you've got
Yeah.
the paint, the makeup done for the somnambulist is striking, and I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden.
And she's it's almost that moment where she's in a daze, where she doesn't quite know who she is, and she
Yep.
sort of, that's the moment, because she's got those big eyes, and that sort of, little sort of sharp nose, and those features that she does look like she came out of the silent era, kind of, in that moment. Just
And I think it was something that, because of the filtering, I don't think it was any intention of the filmmaker to try and achieve that. It was because they were putting through this black and white film, I think, through so many different effects phases, that it was probably degrading what they were starting with, so that the sharpness of that film was becoming, I don't know, I almost want to say speckled, in a way that was kind of like breaking down its components into not a bit mapping, but sort of a deterioration of the finesse of it. So it wasn't a smooth gray you were getting. It was breaking into almost stippling of a sort. And I'm sure I'm not really relating this in the right way. Somebody else could articulate this better. But the effect of it was haunting. And it was otherworldly because something was very different happening. If it was as smooth as the black and white film that they surely shot to begin with, it wouldn't have had this after effect of being so sort of subtly unnerving.
Well, it's what's weird about Tron to me too is that all of these things, Flash Gordon's a little different in a different category for us, but Tron, the black hole, all these things that we would have gone to because of Star Wars, the motion picture or whatever. Um, I think I saw Tron 2 or 3 times maybe in the theater. I still have the handheld game, not the box, but the game itself, and I played it to death. I played the video game in the arcade. I had the action figures. I had the mailed away for the Smuckers Jam poster, activity book that I still have somewhere. You know, um, but it was we knew in our hearts that it wasn't Star Wars. Nothing ever was going to be quite as magical as Star Wars. Now, Flash Gordon's that's a different animal together. But as years go by, it becomes another one of those things that you sort of have to defend, or you sort of have to go, I love Tron. Look, I know it's not, the most exciting film ever made, but I love it because, and what I would always say to people was, again, it's one of those films that doesn't look like anything else. There's nothing to compare it to. There's nothing to compare Flash Gordon to. Now, Blade Runner is a different story because Blade Runner becomes influential, and then for the next, 20 years, from music videos to dystopian sci-fi, we get a variation on a theme that hugely influential. Alien, the look of Alien, hugely influential, but Blade Runner especially. But Tron, nothing ever comes along, and it was the longest time. And I think it was probably right around when that video game happened. Do you remember that? It was like a Tron 2.0 sort of thing, and it was I think they had a set of action figures that came out, but it was a new computer game that I don't think had any of the original characters in it. But that was the first kind of thing that I saw and went, oh, is this going to get another life? And then
Oh, you mean within the last 25
I'd
years?
say I'd say it was over 20. It's got to be over 20 years ago, this thing I'm thinking of. And that was the first
Okay.
time that I kind of went, "Oh, so there is an affection for this. There is, it is a secret handshake now and then with people, but you did, it was kind of considered. I mean, it wasn't a failure. It wasn't a Star Wars success, but it did well. And in fact, the I think the merchandise in the video game, made millions and millions for Disney. I think the video game made more profit than the movie did. It was like that. It was so huge. But I've always said that when it started to pick up, and 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, you heard more and more um, references about Tron, or you saw more merchandise, or you know uh, logos and things that got into hoodies and streetwear and sneakers and whatever it was. Um, I always thought that part of the reason it endured and people latched onto it and it started to kind of be born again was the look of it. It wasn't the story.
Hmm.
It wasn't oh, isn't it cool to be in a computer? It's so exciting. It was that the aesthetic endured. It didn't date. Those light cycles haven't dated. Because that's Sid
Yeah.
Mead. Isn't that Sid Mead? Sid Mead does the light cycles and he does the spinner for didn't Sid Mead do the light cycles? Am I wrong about that?
Oh, I should know that off the top of my head.
Because I know that
I'm not
Mobius
sure that that's the case.
didn't Mobius do some design, because Mobius did designs for Alien for Ridley
He
Scott.
did do designs for it, and the most I know of it is like, say, the sort of priestly figure guy, the wizard guy that they go to visit.
Total
That's a
Mobius.
costume design. I think it was, yeah, built
Total.
for Mobius. So
Total.
as far as the main costumes go, I'm not sure if that's built from Mobius parts. Can't tell that case. I mean, it is interesting looking at it because in just pure film of the characters without the lights added, you do kind of wonder, is this a good choice? Because those helmets don't read, really all that you would think there'd be a million other costume things you can come up with that would look a lot more sleek.
It's
But the second you light them up,
it's
where
just on
they're
the cusp.
seeming to glow within, it's like, geez, you've never seen anything like this before or since.
It's just on the cusp of not working. When you see the photo
Yeah.
of when you see the photos of some of the early uh, uh, costume sort of designs and tests, you can see those photos and go, that wouldn't have worked. That would not have worked. They had to start to add accessories, and so suddenly you've got those things, those sort of forearm sort of pads, the things that are on the forearms, and then the boots, and the belt or whatever, because it you start to pay less attention to the fact it's a leotard or whatever they called it, um, and that it's it starts to look kind of more unified, like kind of warrior-esque or whatever. So it struck me immediately as a kid, as a visual, and then I started to see that it got into pop culture more and more, and then years before we get Tron Legacy, we constantly heard these rumors that maybe we would get more, and I want to shout out to Legacy, because I think Legacy is wonderful. I mean, we can nitpick, of course, but in a similar way, it takes the design of the original and it does something different. So it kind of updates it. Again, it reminds me a little bit of Blade Runner 2049, where it's the same world, looks similar, but it's still different. It's changed. It's not exactly the same. And with Legacy, it's more blacklight to me. It's more I probably can't articulate it. Whereas this one, 82, looks kind of like that silent film aesthetic. The Legacy one has a very, very dark black look to it, and the lights are all the lights are darker. You know what I mean? When I mean darker, I mean darker shades of the colors. They're not, the yellows aren't as bright, the blues aren't as bright. It's a darker look. And I just think it's a great aesthetic that they did. That they, as an up.
It's a bummer for me in a way, the difference, because what I like about the original film is feeling like there's no normal colors or skin tones, and in a way, you just went to a place where everybody's colored a whole other hue. So given the different scenes, you might add some, if the lighting on the characters' outfits were red or yellow, that's what's reflected on the black and white film of their faces. But most of the guys in it are lit blue, and it makes them kind of light blue people. And I love light blue characters. It's always been a fascination of mine. It's
Mm.
my favorite color, and so it's like a triggering thing for me. So I had this connection to that was very personalized, and I I feel that's a surreality that's missing from the update, because what I think you get in the new film, where they dilute the color to the point that color of the palette is so repressed that the lighting on the skin of what was his name, Jared, or
Oh, Garrett Hedlund, the lead.
Garrett Hedlund.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah,
yeah.
Jared.
Jared
You
Leto,
know,
the third one. That's probably what you're saying.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. That in a way they were kind of bringing to life a way that, like, why would they have it be the way they made the original movie? Why wouldn't they go forward with something that was aesthetically a little bit more refined? And I think that just because you could, and yes, it's very slick looking, it's missing this component. And that was, again, the surreality that I loved of the original. Like, I'd love it if you gave me some of those details in aspects, maybe some certain characters that have that,
Hmm.
but I'd rather look at that original film and the way that those characters looked kind of cut out of the real world,
Well, and I
you
love
know.
the. I wish we'd had more of the guards that are in the 82 Tron.
Mhm.
The that that headgear, that whole head shoulder thing, the kind of hockey gloves, that
Oh, I think
look.
that might have been another thing that was designed by Mobius.
Yeah, that looks very Mobius to me. So I wonder if I'm right about Sid Mead doing the light cycles. That seems to make sense that he did the light cycles in the tank, and I don't know, but
By the way, it's one thing I did do the deep dive, just thinking about Mobius again, tangent here.
Yeah.
Um, Mobius's biggest contribution to film design was all the unutilized design work he did for Jodorowsky's Dune, and
Mm.
people have made videos, early ones. I think it's more than a couple I've seen, where they basically gave those prompts to AI. And at least the
Mm.
last time I watched any of this stuff was probably a year or two ago. So I don't know if there's been any update with it, but it was crazy to see some of that stuff where people are trying to almost say, what if Jodorowsky got to make the film he endeavored to make? Now,
Mm.
as far as I could tell, there was not a perfect translation of taking those designs that were available in the documentary and getting AI to perfectly follow any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, the craziness of how you can start to build not just film teasers and clips, but now potentially long form content with the new, I don't know, what do you call it? It's not software, but AI is effectively an access tool.
Satanic,
And to
satanic weaponry.
well, sure, amongst many things, yes.
Yeah.
Um, that basically you could actually realize a thing that would have been, it was the death of of Jodorowsky's plans because, he had crazy ambitions in terms of the running time of the movie and how much money he was trying to get out of Hollywood, and basically they turned him away thinking he's a kook. And the thing is now, any kooky idea can probably be pursued to some realization. You can ask for that to be brought to life, and
I,
it's
I have my feeling about the Jodorowsky thing is that it's more fascinating as a what could have been and what that
right.
documentary is than what the finished product would have been. It would have been unique. It would have been cool to have it, but
But it wouldn't really have been Frank Herbert's
it would
Dune.
not have
We
been
know
Frank
that.
Herbert's Dune. And what would have happened would have been, you know, maybe it would have been, 20, 30 years after that we eventually got it. Luckily, we got the 84 one. And eventually it took someone like Villeneuve to come along and say, I can do this. I want to do this. Um, so I think because and I got nothing against Jodorowsky. I dig his stuff, but it was it was Jodorowsky's Dune. It wasn't Frank Herbert's Dune. I do wish
Yeah,
that
yeah.
somebody would take, if they're going to do something with AI. I wish what they would do. I don't. It must be a rights issue or something. I'm just shocked that after all this time, Toshin or someone hasn't managed to take the book that they put together of the artwork that told the entire story of what his movie.
Well, I think it's been a rights issue, which is a weird thing. You've got multiple publishers making different comic adaptations
Right,
of the novels,
right,
and I don't understand how that doesn't apply. Like somebody bought one of those books on auction and had the intention of printing it, but they had to be pointed out, I guess, this is the way I heard it, that like you
oh,
don't have a rights to just make that. That's licensable
right,
material.
right. And
You can't just do whatever the heck you want.
it could be an issue too that it's you know how much content is in there that's actually Dune. You know what I mean? That's actually adheres to the book. Is it 30% Dune and the rest his wild drug fueled uh, trips and shit. Maybe it's something like that. But I'd love.
Or you also have a problem of sometimes people start making plans for this stuff and they don't realize like, oh, this person could be Jodorowsky in this case says, oh sure, the second you want to make a book, you still have to pay me, and
Right, right. Did you
that could
that?
be a big ask. It could be something that's outrageous in terms of what the talent thinks that they're due given their participation in it. That happens constantly.
Did you ever read that the book he did with was it the Incal? It's called.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you
I
ever
read that a
you read that?
very long time ago.
Yeah, that was.
I've read actually the sequels since then too, which Jose Ladrone did a wonderfully illustrated sequel
Mm.
to the Mobius book that's just astonishing to take in.
Well,
That came out a few years ago.
there was talk not long ago that your boy Taika Waititi was going to make a movie out of it, along with the other 30 things that were announced that he was gonna
Yeah,
that he was gonna
yeah.
make. Um, but
Well, he got punished. He
yeah,
got punished, and all those things were taken away.
I think he did. I think he kind of did. Um, but
And and frankly, if you watched, not counting just what was the last one, Love and Thunder, if you count watching the Apple TV series of
oh yeah,
uh, uh,
Time Band.
Jesus,
Time Band is
Time Bandits,
yeah.
that alone should get you demerits.
Yeah. Well, he was going
I
to
mean,
do he was
holy
gonna do
Christmas!
Flash Gordon, because I remember
I know.
when Ragnarok came out. I think it was an issue of Empire magazine, maybe, where he said as much that if Queen had been around today, he would have gotten them to do the score for it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, yeah, that totally makes sense, you know. So, and then not long after to hear that, yeah, he's going to be doing Flash Gordon. At the time, because I dig Ragnarok, at the time I kind of thought, okay, let's see what this, what this is,
Yeah.
if it could happen. And then
We all did.
we had a slightly different reality that we got. So you haven't seen Ares, the third one.
No, I'm meaning to, and because I didn't get to it right when it was in theaters, it was a bad work collision timing thing, and
Well, I don't
I
want to. I'm
will
not
be
going to
watching
spoil
it
it.
soon.
I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but I'm glad I saw it in the theater. I had read enough about it going into it.
Frankly, there is a sort of resentment I carry with me about the fact that they couldn't pull either of those two movies together with Cindy getting to reprise her role. Like, I mean, there was plenty of chance to get her in there
Yeah,
to
I agree.
return.
Yeah, I agree with that. And she was, doing the convention circuit and was certainly around. It's not like she was a recluse or something. And I would have liked to have seen, you know, because there was talk for years after Legacy that there would be a third one, that Kaczynski was talking about doing another one, that would have had a larger role for Box Leitner, for Tron to kind of come back and stuff, and
Yeah.
that would have been very cool. But I loved Legacy. I still love it. I loved that it. I keep saying this. I keep boasting and saying we talk about these things where like we did get the best stuff, because all of it is endured, and whether it works, whether Ares works or not for anybody, it worked a little bit for me, but I knew going into it wasn't going to be either of the two films. Um, the fact that there's still a fascination with Tron and Blade Runner, all the things that we had. I mean, for how many years have we heard about a black hole remake that's going to happen? That is total it's total madness to even talk about it. Like, it's not. It's an insane movie. Why would you
But what's funny is you think back about that time period where Disney had tried to get some genre stuff together with all these different things, everything from, Black Hole to Tron to Condor Man, and there was a sense of them being kind of out of touch. I'm sure that was a criticism felt at the time,
yeah.
but I also have an affection for all those things. Maybe it's the timing of them, but there was something charming in each and every one of them.
Oh, even
You
Condor
know.
Man, because Condor Man is one of those seminal moments in my childhood movie going experience where I sat there just thinking, oh, rip off. I am being ripped off right now. This is not what I thought this was going to be. I saw it again, I don't know, decades later somewhere, or came across it somewhere. But it would have been something that I would have seen a commercial for and said to one of my parents, like, "Oh, can we see this?" Or seen the ad in the. I didn't know it was a comedy, going into the theater, and I kind of knew who Oliver Reed was from the Musketeer movies, but I have a lot of affection for the Black Hole. Don't get me wrong. Uh, but it's insane. It's an insane, from top to bottom, that they thought this thing was going. I mean, it's there's so much that works that's really great, and the score and a lot of the design and stuff, and then there's so much that's like the Muppet Show or something. and then the craziness of the ending and everything. But we got all the best stuff. That's just kind of how it is. And Tron, what do you think about the aesthetic of the original Tron? Why do you think it endures the way it does?
Um, well, much of those reasons of like it's unlike anything else, and even attempts to revisit it still doesn't capture those exact things that it did that were truly innovative.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, light cycles are still just cool as fuck.
no, again, they've done a good job bringing new upgraded versions of those to life,
Yeah,
but in a way, the crudity of the CG animation in that movie is just perfect.
yeah,
It doesn't need to be the 100 times better that it would be now, because in a way, it's not winning you over by being technically perfect. It's
yeah.
the imperfections that are the thing that you need to kind of recognize have this value.
And you're a
You know.
big fan of, because I had mentioned to you that I saw a video somewhere where somebody was talking about the Tron films, and they were kind of trashing the Wendy Carlos score for the '82 film, and that's when I realized how big a fan you are of that score. And I would say
Oh man, I
that
love that score. Yeah.
that score is great, and I love what Daft Punk did, and I dig what Trent Reznor did with the third one. It's cool that you've got three very different scores and very different kind of moods and stuff. But I think the score for the '82 film um, is kind of magical, And there's a Journey song? Is that a Journey song
Yeah.
in credits?
Yeah. The Journey song is well. There's I think earlier in the film you hear a little bit of a Journey song playing, but it's not the one that was created for the closing credits in the movie.
Right.
And I love. I mean, I've got that on vinyl, and great album.
Well, and they do that great little wink in Legacy when he goes to the arcade, and moves the machine. It's the Journey tune. Oh, what's the song? Dun 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 dun. Great change in my
Keep going.
separate ways. And then the machine just goes against the wall, and the song kind of stops. And I remember sitting in the theater and going, "Oh yeah, Journey. Yeah, it's perfect. What a perfect little bit of nuance there."
Oh yeah.
But you also ended up getting all the Disneyland or Disney World. No, Disney World or
World. Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
Disney World, because it's the ride that they have at Disney World that they don't have at Disneyland. There's a bunch of merch that's come out there in the parks. Box sets of like a figure, and I think
Yeah, they made I think 3 light cycles and some carded figures. So they basically did all the primary characters that are in the movie, and the first ever Yori figure. And this is more extensive, of course, than the larger scale figures done by Diamond Select Toys, which were very well made. But the stuff that was made for the theme parks that's classic is cool. But the new stuff that was being made for the Kickstarter was a better upgrade, but almost feels like, well, you're a little late to this, and
yeah,
why are they the same size and scale as the retro style for
right,
the theme park toys?
right.
So one thing, you're making it more expensive, but you've made it the exact same size as the thing that many of us might have already bought, and kind of figure, well, if you got to me first before I bought all that, I might be funding your thing,
And
but
and I love
it's
also
too late.
the what Spin Master did with the Legacy toy line. I'm a big fan of that line. Um, like the 4-inch figures, lit up. I think they all had a light effect, but the 6-inch figures had that hologram face. The blank plastic screen
Oh yeah.
it was, and you pressed a button, and Jeff Bridges came up, or Garrett Hedlund. Then they made 12-inch ones. So I've got the the
I've got one of those. Yeah.
yeah, the Jeff Bridges, it's just like, oh my, and that was great technology at the time to be doing that. We got nothing for Ares, obviously, except for the movie theater stuff, and then
Well, I mean, yeah, but name the popcorn bucket is pretty impressive. I looked at the video of that.
the
That
one
was
with the
pretty.
with the movable bikes with the little maze with the bikes. You mean that one?
Not that. No, there's a light cycle that
Oh yeah, yeah,
is
yeah, yeah. That's
is
pretty.
a big popcorn bucket, and that looks pretty gorgeous.
Yeah, the one I did get is the one it's like a maze that goes around the bucket, and you've got two lights like
Right.
you can move around, and it lights up, and but we are going to get. It looks like Hasbro has already just showed off new figures for Tron Legacy, but nobody seems to know anything about it when that might happen. So, but I was thinking about that HasLab thing, and it's kind of I would I think it's grossly expensive. Um, I would have loved it if they were simpler and could have just gone to be like like the Superman ones that hit Target or something. Those ones that Spin Master did, and it wouldn't be so complicated. But it's hopefully we'll get. I mean, we got so much stuff. By from Diamond, and then was it Diamond that did all the stuff, all the different ones?
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
coolest thing Diamond did do was a set that is an imitation of the arcade game,
yeah, yeah,
where it put the three figures they made inside of that with a black light apparatus. You press the button on the console, and it lights up inside, and the black light features on the costumes react to the black light, and it's awesome.
yeah.
I've been looking at that for years in my office.
I've got the set that's the three figures, those figures, but in not lucite. What's the term? Like the see-through way the original Tomy figures looked. That plastic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've got that set, the three of them in a set, and then other versions and stuff. And so
Yeah, I've got that
got all
too. I mean,
that.
I definitely have all the feels that conveys when I
Yeah,
check that out.
no, it's
You
great.
know,
It's great. Well, I was thinking about it, and I thought that'd be a fun little avenue to go down in a life cycle together. And there you go. That's more tangents and more.
justice for Cindy Morgan. That's all I think
Yeah,
about it.
well,
You
and
know,
rest in peace. We she was I mean, she was a very attractive woman. You know,
as
but
far as I know, to the end of her days. You
yes,
know,
she
I mean,
was. She was absolutely. But
not that that is the only value. We
no,
are
of
being
course,
recorded now. Not that
of course
that is the
not.
only value that we should ascribe to her.
Her
It's just that
personality
we don't personally know her,
amazing as well.
but
Her
we would have wished to have more of her.
yes, much more of her. Uh, all right. Well, more to come, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this tangent or tangent.